Hi, so this is Jeannie, and this is my podcast, Dreams to Reality. And I have a special guest that came back from the last time, and it's Lauren, and she's going to be discussing Be Set Free Fast, which was a clearing modality that Dr. Larry since created, and I'm gonna show the link later, and so you can buy it and try it out for yourself. But she's going to explain it because she's been using it for a while now, and she has her own method. And so this one, Be Set Free Fast. If you know the four keys, it's clarity, clearing, subconscious reprogramming, and aligned action. So this one falls under clearing or belief clearing to clear the resistance and anything that gets in your way in you achieving your goals. So I'm not gonna dilly dally. So Lauren is back and she's gonna discuss Be Set Free Fast.
Hi there.
Hi, you
Well, thank you so much for having me back. I had a great time last week discussing the mental bank and how we use that tool. And it's one of a great tools in our toolbox, and just how we have so many different things to pick and choose from. And so the mental bank was a great tool that we used for, a nightly kind of process to keep us in goal oriented. And so what we're discussing this week is using a tool called Be Set Free Fast. And what that does is it gets to our negative self-talk. So we can have all these great actions and we're doing things, though. What about when you're out and about, I notice, and you're doing things and you have these triggers or these thoughts? And that's what I really like this tool for. And it really changes that conversation that goes in your head. And I love it for that. And then the other half of it, so not only are you free, it's you really free. And that has been the biggest blessing. And my hugest takeaway was I had this limiting belief that I am bad. And that was my undertone with everything. It didn't matter all the outside goals that I was getting. I still felt horrible on the inside. And it was like, I could, be a psychology person and, hey, these are my behaviors that are acting out and this and that. And why is it not working? Well, the root cause under there is my belief that I am bad. And so that's where using this tool, Be Set Free Fast, is amazing for me personally. I used it to get rid of that belief, and it has lasted. And that's been the hugest blessing, to not have this subscript running and changing behaviors, changing thoughts. And I was figuring out, I did that treatment in the summer of 2017, and it's lasted. And it's not only lasted so long, my entire life has shifted. Just, oh my gosh, I feel so much lighter and free. I don't have this thing that's saying that I'm bad all the time. And I am so unbelievably grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that a lot of our negative self-talk comes from our childhood. I don't know what kind of childhood you had, but I also had growing up, I had strict parents and strict caregivers, and they always, and I came from a school that was taught by religious people. So I also had that negative self-talk, which is, I'm bad, I'm doing bad. I it's that negative reinforcement, and I think you grow up with it, and it's a good thing that people with that negative self-talk, especially with religion as well, religious beliefs, it's always like, oh, you're a sinner, you're bad, you're doing bad. And we grow up with these programming, and it's so hard, because we always have guilt. And what I noticed when I started subconscious reprogramming, I noticed that I don't have any guilt, as like guilt is not the main thing that rules my life anymore. So how did you discover this, and what made you, as you said, it's effective, but how did you discover this one? Because this is it's not very popular. Not a lot of people know about this yet.
So I have a very dear friend who shared it with me, and she's just this amazing being and a wise soul and a gentle soul. And so she's out in Hawaii, and I met her on my financial freedom journey and discovery of self. And that was my intention, which took me to Hawaii after selling my first company. And it was, instead of having money goals, I had a happiness goal. I wanted to be happy. And long story short, I ended up meeting her and her amazing partner, and now they have a child together. And I have a beautiful friendship with them. And it was through sharing and exchanging ideas that one day randomly, this had came about. And I was really suffering, and kind of suicidal and different things. And it didn't matter that I had stuff in my life. And that didn't matter. It was this core, and honestly, the self-talk that I'm so bad and I don't deserve to live, and I have to prove myself. And it's just this inner talk that had just warped and developed and soured my core. And so she said she wanted to do that with me. And so she had shared it. And so I had kind of, read the book and poked around at it, though I didn't have, I would say, the discipline to sit down and actually do it. And also my experience from the book, like, it was fine reading about it, though you're reading a long book, and I didn't have like okay, what's the next step / how do you put this into practice and actually do it? And so nothing really happened with it. And I was still, doing a lot of personal growth. And it's like all these good things, though I still had this self-talk that went with me everywhere. And so long story short, she was so beautiful and wonderful to jump on the phone with me. And I think we were on the phone for close to 3 hours.
Whoa.
And I shed a lot of tears. I remember just being like this huddled corner, just like, and because the part of the process is just getting out those thoughts. And my thought was just, you are bad, and this is why you're bad, and all this. And I just had to go through that process. And I think a lot of personal growth, like, it's like crawling through the mud through the other side. It was mud. It hurt. Just going through that. And a lot of you are bad, though you have this tool and Set Free Fast, which is to clear that. And my clear word, or what they call it in there is Q word, is breathe. And to me, my subconscious is programmed that when I say a statement, in this case, I am bad, and I say breathe right afterwards, it's trained to tell my mind, I don't want that association. Delete that. And it deletes it, so it's not having a positive or negative. And that's why I can say, like, I am bad now, and it's not hurting me to my core. It's not a trigger. And that's how as I'm sitting here talking, I can say in conviction, it is lasting, because I do not have that reaction. And that's when you know that you're healed or free, is when you don't have those emotional triggers. And that's the glorious part about using the technique Be Set Free Fast that I found.
So are you saying that it neutralizes, because when we say statements and stuff, that isn't good or bad. There's really no good and bad, only our definition of it and our emotional triggers, as you said. So you say that it neutralizes it?
Yes, I would say that. It's not that it makes it positive per se and have programming. It releases it. You're free. And I think that's something that's jumping out from one of my personal growth seminars I attended, is that, to experience something and acceptance is nothingness, like, and that's where it's this take it or leave it part, that it's beautiful. And maybe that's where you have that free will of choice. I'm not getting triggered by emotions, whether it's overinflated, even happiness, or just happiness. It's also this tool, I've used it on the other side of really say good things, like I am good, or, I am worthy, I am enough. And those words, which should be very positive connotations, Like if you're having harsh reactions to it, and for me, like I couldn't live up to it, or I'm not deserving it. So this tool works for both positive and negative things that are triggering you, so that they're not triggering you, aka neutral, or just things are good. Like they don't have this horrible positive charge to them.
Okay, so how did you know that it was effective or it disappeared aside from the feeling and stuff? Did you use some sort of scale, like from 0 to 10, with 10 being the most severe? Because we have that in pain scale as well.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, and based on Free Fast, they call it a SUD scale, and it's your level of discomfort. And so it's when you think about something on that 1 to 10, and it's great to go with your first instinct. I like that. So either way, you assess it. So when you think of the discomfort, whether it's whatever, I am bad or I am worthy, just what is it charged to you, and then you assess that. And so if it's really uncomfortable, you'd assess that at, say, a level 8, 10, 12, off the charts. And then the idea is to knock it down to a 1 or 2. And I would say during the session, and I would say I don't know if I've ever gotten it to a 0, like when I'm doing the measuring. However, that relief that comes from going from, even say a 7 to a 4 is so significant. It's priceless. I'm so grateful from any relief. And you have a tool in your hand that if you're at a 4, you just keep doing the process. Why are you at a 4? Because something in your mind is still upsetting. So all you do with this practice is, okay, you're at a 4. Why are you at a 4? Well, because I'm still bad. Breathe. Because I don't deserve it. Breathe. Whatever it is that's coming to mind, that's all it is. And it's the beautiful thing with this tool. It's very simple. It's not hard. What's the thing that pops in your mind? And then you use your cue word to delete it, or recognize that that's not a belief you want to hold to.
Yeah.
And then at the end, they do this closing technique that just kind of seals it and puts it all together. And that's where my hard part was, like, understanding simply how it worked. So then this closing technique, and it's like, well, I didn't want to lug around like 100-page book, or, they have a great online version and things. And so I just developed it for myself, a little thing, and I put it in my notebook. And so I have the whole thing that you repeat right here. And then I made it 2 pages, so it's easy. And you can even take it on the go, fold it up.
Mhm.
And that way, when you're out and about and something does come up, I just use my cue word. And then at the end of either, if it's a session that's intense, or at the end of the day, I'll go through this closing technique, and it's not hard and challenging. You just repeat a few statements. And by doing that, it really, truly works.
Oh, that's great. And how often, especially with, you said you worked on it in 2017. So, and you said it went from that high level to at least a 2. But how often did you have to do it? Did you have to do it every day or as it comes up? Or, you know, uh, how long does it take to go from one level to the lowest level? Or, yeah.
Gotcha. I'd say there's 2 different ways, which is, the intense session, like a treatment session, whether you do it with yourself or another person. I found at the beginning, doing it with another person really helps to understand and kind of break through, and you really attack it. So for me, my first session was, close to 3 hours. And then from there, I know I did more sessions. I might have done another session on the phone with her, though after that, I've been on my own. So it's not something that you have to have. Though the nice thing, is to have a tool that, or a resource to contact. Though basically the treatment session is, if there's something that's really bothering you, that's when you want to sit down and do a treatment session and really work with it. What are the thoughts that are coming up? That's where, you assess that scale. Is it bothering you at an 8? You know, and can we drop it down? And a lot of times it's kind of like onion peeling. You're going down different layers. You're not doing anything different. You're just listening to the thoughts that are coming up. So it's really working with it, and the hard things on that. And then the other thing is just that on the go. And that's where I've kind of gotten in a maintenance plan. And I did a lot of harder sessions that year. I couldn't tell you how many, though probably a handful on different things as they came up. You know, like a weight one, you know, like I'm fat. I know I did a money one, deservings, you know, just apparently, you know, there's 8 like common limiting beliefs, and so attacking those like really does a lot. And then I went on a maintenance plan, and so for me, tying it into this mental bank, and what I kind of coined the inner bank is putting it all together. So my mental banking and paying myself for my goal tasks. Well, one of my tasks was be set free fast, or BSFF, and doing that every day. And that way, so tremendous. So it was great. I would just be out and about, and anything that crossed my mind that I did not want to keep in my experience, I would just say breathe, and then I'd forget about it. So I'm not doing a whole bunch of onion peelings. I'm just going throughout my day. As I say things, I say breathe. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, hey, when I sit down to do my clearing at the end of the night, when I'm doing my mental bank, so right before I mental bank, I would sit down and do this and walk myself, you know, through the treatment. And I'd say, and I'm, you know, I can actually read the verbatim out of it. So we use the words. So the biggest thing they call the global statement, which is your overall. So I had done little statements throughout the day as they popped up. And then I would say, I am now treating in one treatment all of my, in this case, statements that I've cleared today with my keyword. And then all of the limiting thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, and emotions that would ever make me keep or take back anything that I've treated. Breathe. And that's how I would tie it in at the end of each night. And then we can go more into techniques and stuff later, but that really gives you hopefully an idea of, you can do long onion peelings with this and really get to it and measure techniques, or put it on a maintenance plan. And I did this solid for well over a year straight. And I'm very happy with the results, you know, in the past 5 years. And I'm grateful for my core bubble, that it doesn't matter what location I'm in, I've done the work, and I have great tools to help steer me on course, especially, you know, pandemic, things get crazy. And, you know, this is when you pull out the tools. My grandma died. That was my last Be Set Free session, I realized. And I did that with the grief and the guilt that came up. And I was so grateful to fall back on that tool. And also, we talk about combining tools. I combined that with a different belief clearing, Ho'oponopono. So I did both of those, and I went out into the mountains, and I stood on a cliff, and I think I cried a bit, though I was really vocalizing, and I like mountains because I can yell out there. And I did my Be Set Free fast on, you know, not feeling guilty over my grandma's death and getting through it. And I am so grateful I have that tool, because 10 years prior, when my other grandma passed, I was a mess for years and couldn't get over it. And it's not that I love my grandma's less. However, a few months after this grandma's death, I loved her to pieces. I can talk about it and be okay. Versus my other one, I would fall apart years later. And I think that right there says emotional work. And I'm just so grateful to have these things. So.
Yeah, that's good. And do you do, because you mentioned a session, sorry about that, my dog Bacon crashed the interview again. So do you do a session with clients? Do you do it on them, or do you provide that, what you call that, a coaching session with them with a Be Set Free fast, where you do it on them as your friend did it on you, like for 3 hours? Do you provide that as well?
We do that. And I think, on my financial freedom journey, I was set off on this whole other course that I thought, and that's where the beautifulness that this is something I've enjoyed and it's come along, and I feel like I'm very gifted at helping people and kind of seeing those onions under there. And it's deep work, and I enjoy it. And so both myself and my friend said she is more than willing and enjoys doing it too. She loves helping and working with people. So when I first looked in at this, I looked at, is this something to get certified in or work with other people? And honestly, 2 years, it's pretty dormant. And I've just kind of morphed it to myself, and it's evolved, and I'm so happy to be helping people use this tool that I've had a lot of work. I'm so grateful for the work that I've put into it, and I feel like everybody is, as they start to appeal it and get to know yourself and your parts. And so I have the 2-page guide, which I love, and I made it for myself, and that's how a lot of my website stuff is it's like stuff that I found is handy. And I'm like, hey, I don't know how to do the Be Set Free Fast very well and very easily, and referencing the book. And so I just put it in something that I can print out, and I love it. This is my notebook that keeps me on track with my inner bank is, right here. So a few pages back, so that way I can just keep organized, and all the different tools are in here. And yeah, it's just one of those things. Then there's also, so there's the guide, there's a template, to get you going with all of that. And then there's a consult if you just want to talk and, figure out how to do what you need. It's all on my website that you can go to as well, which is Lauren's Financial Freedom Journey, or it's really about you. So your, YOUR, and then FFJ.com. So yourfinancialfreedomjourney.com. And that is under there is deleting negative self-talk, and it runs you through all of the Be Set Free Fast. You can follow it right on the website, read about it, how it works, do the treatment right there on the page. And so it walks you through step by step how to do the treatment.
You mentioned that you tweaked it. What are the tweaks that you have that's not a part of the original, or you just what makes yours different? Did you just streamline it, or what's your tweak on the visa?
Yeah, very minor things as far as the wording. To initially start Be Set Free Fast, you read 6 pages in their book. So that's, read their 6 pages. That's fine and perfect. So what I noticed is, like, in word choice with affirmations, I noticed that some of under the fail safe, so if you're, familiar with it, under those, I just noticed, like, I deserve to be permanently free, and they were kind of open-ended. So I've put in, like, continually from now on. And I don't know if that's the specific one, because I know some of them were longer, though it was under the fail safes that I added some different words. And then I've also added to the end, like, I am so happy and grateful. I am free forever. Breathe. So putting in more positive statements, I noticed it was a little more negative. So those are some that I've done just looking back at it. And then, yeah, I don't think I didn't do much on the treatment stuff. And then what I've done is my own personal way, it's how I practice on that on the go, where I do it, just kind of out and about, and then use my cue word, and then at night do the cue. And then for the words I swap in, it's just, I am treating anything I've ever treated with my cue word. Breathe. So that's something that I've altered and making it so I love it's on the go. So I've made it on the go. And then putting in, they do a little bit of tapping, and when they do the closing, they just say, like, tap 3 times, but they don't say where or how. And so that's a different tool I bring in is, the EFT tapping and things with sequences. I met with somebody who was getting her PhD in tapping.
Wow.
And it was amazing. Yeah, down in Belize, randomly. It was so crazy. So we ended up doing a session back and forth. She taught me her thing, and I did some Be Set Free Fast with her. And so with her tapping, so we do the crown and then the third eye, and then right under here, right above the lip, chin area, and then you do your shoulders and then your collarbones. So those are the ones that I will do while I'm doing it. And I like it. I always like this one. And the interesting thing is, while I'm doing it, different ones might call out. So I might spend all my time doing this, or, you know, wherever it is with tapping. So that's just the way I've merged it. And then also with the Ho'oponopono. So then that's, I love you, please forgive me, I'm sorry, and I appreciate you. And so those, I use that a lot with my grandmas. So, and I had also someone that I had a huge resentment for. And, you know, I was so angry years later at this person. And, you know, they probably have no clue and they're just fine. And every time I hear this person's name, that anger comes rushing in. And that's where having these tools is nice. And so I finally was like, you know what, just need to sit down and I need to do a session on this person. So I went out to the mountains and I yelled and I did my B-set free fast with a Ho'oponopono and tapping. And you know what? I can talk about that person, and it's not a 2 even, but I would say it went from like a 9.5 down to like a 3.5. And that's very, very nice. So, and then I have a tool that I can use if I'd like to get it down to like a 1 or a half or even a 0. So.
I'm just curious where that mountain is.
Well, that's the funny thing. I've noticed, and I've put that into my happiness part, that I love being out and having nature moments. And so when I lived in a lot of different spots, and then I'm quarantining, visiting my family in Los Angeles. So there's some yelling spots there near where I'm in the corner of the San Fernando Valley. So I go up into the mountains. So up in like Tahunga, there's some very nice mountains. So there's one I just cruise up that way, and it's about 4 miles into the middle of nowhere from my house. And yeah, perfect yelling spot.
I'm sure if there's like hikers and stuff, they're like, what is that?
It's not that busy. Though, you know what? Before I discovered that, actually, it was within a running spot. And so I could go and I could run. And it was on top of this like old abandoned stone like cabin thing. And I like height, you know, that's why I like to be on my cliff in the mountain, because it's like so I have to be up and then I yell. Or actually there was a lake that I yelled at too that's near here. So apparently you just have to find what works for you. And it's like, I usually also go into those moments like I want a breakthrough, I need one, like, and it's like it all comes together and I'm like, okay, it's time to put the work in and I'll have my moments. So, and then I'm good, much better on the other side, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think actually doing something physical, aside from just doing the mental clearing, I think that really helps a lot, because a lot of times it's just mental. You know, the clearing work that I do is very mental. But you know, doing a tapping, going to the mountains, and just doing something physical, I think it does help release it from your system. And that's why we always say, I have to get it out of my system. So
Yeah.
I think the body knows that it knows how to release energy that doesn't serve it anymore. So yeah, in my case, I just do that, you know, to release stuff, or I do breathing. But yeah, that's a good idea too, just physically being in a location where you can just release and let nature just, you know, do its work.
Yeah. That's good. I'll have to remember, so then I don't have to drive there so far to go yell.
Yeah, because I do a clearing. It's sort of an energy clearing thing, but I do this a lot. I used to do the EFT, but I realized that when I was driving, it's like pretty hard to do it, and I'm like, oh no, right? So I just do the breathing, especially if someone cuts you off. But now we can use the be set free fast. Instead of saying a curse word, you can just say, I think one of the co-founders or the writers, Joan Sotkin, I think she uses the word delete. Yeah, that's what she mentioned in one of our coaching sessions. She uses delete. So, yeah, whatever your cue or keyword is while driving, because that happens often, right?
Yeah, it is true. And, putting in, it's kind of an interesting journey from like, I went from depression and anger. Well, first it's like, oh, I'm happy. And then I started peeling onions and then I just went down and then I had to get myself back up. And so, oh man, where was I going with that? So, oh shoot, I totally lost it.
The onions and stuff. So you're just
Um,
clearing. It's a process.
yeah, it is a process, but oh shoot, I was going somewhere with that. So anyway, just trusting yourself. And so when I started this, like I had a very hard time trusting me and look at that energy work and like all the stuff on the outside can seem good, and it's like we hear things like Robin Williams who commit suicide and all these like successful people, and it's like, oh my gosh, they have stuff. And it was, for me, it's like my journey and my goal is to be uberly successful because I want the house. And it's like, oh, well, I want this amazing property. Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, I need money to go with that. Okay. Well, then I have to do something big to get that. And I had all these pressures and layers, and it was horrible. And it ended up making me very depressed. And it was releasing this self-talk. And it's like having you as your best friend in your head is priceless. And I would just say, like, doing the work and having that freedom in your mind is just beautiful. Please do it, everybody. Like, it's really a mind at peace.
Yeah, going back to successful people that commit suicide, Anthony Bourdain, Robin Williams, and the others, I think it's because they hold it in, right? And that's why we need to clear it, because like the body knows how to release stuff. It's just that we hold it in, and some negativity can get stored and it can create problems. It becomes ailments later on too, right? Worry turns into you have a heart condition or high blood pressure. So it's all connected, everything is energy. But yeah, I think having a tool that allows you to just clear yourself so you don't have to hold it in, because I'm sure those people that are successful, they just been holding it in for years and years and years, never talked about it. And if they did, they just didn't have the tools to like clear it from their system. And which is what Be Set Free does, Be Set Free Fast does, Ho'oponopono does, EFT does. It's clearing all of the negative self-talk, negative emotions, and negative memories. Yeah.
Yep.
So I have another question because some memories came up. So you mentioned about self-talk, but can Be Set Free Fast actually work with negative memories? Let's say you had childhood trauma or something, and can you use Be Set Free Fast to do that, or do you need something stronger?
I think it's very good to use on that. It's kind of interesting. I wasn't honestly sure if I should bring it up right before on this conversation. And now that you say memories, I'm like, okay, I'll take that as a sign. So on my belief clearing quest to be happy, yeah, and I was just so open. And I was raised, with religious type parents, and they have one way, and it was like, okay, I'm just being open. And so on my happiness journey, I ended up in the middle of Times Square, and where I'd always wanted to go. And I looked up and was so bedazzled. And I was swooped by a Scientology person. And they said, do you want to take this self-happiness assessment thing? And I was like, well, I'm on my happiness journey, and this is here. I literally had about 15 seconds in Times Square wondering, like, here I am, what am I waiting for? And then they swooped. So that there's a lot of fear stuff with that. And I would say I'm not associated, though the interesting thing when I went and I ended up taking a class and learning kind of the fundamental of what started that. And it's called Dianetics. And Dianetics, I don't know if you know anything about it. It's the study of how memories become ingrained in these infant child and all memories, so especially those 0 to 4 memories, on how it forms you. And so with them, they have their own clearing techniques associated with that. And so I was like, well, their way of explaining how these memories get stuck, I think is so fascinating. I haven't found a better explanation. Their clearing routes, I think I like Be Set Free Fast better, and I found more effective than that. Though what it is, they call it an engram. And so using the 2 parts of your mind, you have that reptile brain, and that's like the old brain, that's your established or that subconscious, and so that's the part that controls the breathing and the fight flight, all of that. So that's what's more active, they say, especially in the younger children. And and it takes time for the other brain to develop. So that's also why little kids, it's more imprinted upon. So as a child or person or animal is going about their moment, and something happens that spikes them, and it can be positive or negative, but that moment when things spike, your brain switches over to the reptile side, and it's not something that you can do. It's scientific, like switch on. So when that reptile brain is on, everything that goes on instantly becomes captured like a memory. So it's photos, sounds, smells, all that snapshot. What it is, if you think of it like recording, your usual memory usually records, but when your reptile brain takes over, it's recording, and everything it just takes in is basic, and it imprints it, and it's stupid. So that's why something is triggered later. It's because, let's say, you're little, and a dog barks, and at the same moment, like, a bee stings, and it was very traumatic. And now every time you hear a dog bark, you don't know why, but you start to have a panic attack. But you don't know that when you were 2, this happened, because you don't, though your brain, when it recorded that, so they explain it really well in the science of this whole recording, and that's why things get stuck. And their science in Dianetics too says, when you're like, your subconscious is so delicate, they've done science that when people are out, like under anesthesia, they can remember, they're still listening, but it's the reptile brain that's recording it. So if somebody says, say, like, I hate chocolate, they don't know, but suddenly that's imprinted on this poor person's. And sometimes, people start to display those things. And so that's how these things get in there. So, if it could be a scare or a bad memory or anything, well, reptile brain got accessed and reptile brain recorded. So now we can use a tool, say, like Be Set Free Fast, or any number of other tools to clear, but it's to get that negative association, because it was fear. So everything in that is frozen in this fear energy. And so then you need to go back and reset it and clear it somehow. Your tool, your choice, though we like Be Set Free Fast in order to go clear those things that somehow got impressed upon us for lots of different moments and reasons.
Yeah, I really like that explanation. It is very scientific, because I'm in healthcare, and we did study the brain, and we do have that, because of evolution, that we do have that reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, and the neocortex, which is conscious. But you're right, because it's like a computer hardware, where it just gets, like, add on, like, upgrade, but it's still, the reptilian brain is the one in control of everything, breathing, subconscious, like, you're not even aware of your heartbeat, circulation, and stuff like that. And Trauma is actually, you're right, because when you get bitten by a dog, you see a dog and suddenly you forget that you were like 80 years old or something. You go back to when you were like 4 years old when someone bit you, or like a dog bit you. So you're right, we do have that automatic part of our brain. Um, and I think we just need tools to clear that. And that's really amazing. And I love your explanation. It's a really good explanation of how the subconscious mind works. And it just really, it does absorb everything, as you said, you felt that you were bad, you were never good enough, because I think a lot of that comes from childhood. Maybe we were punished if we did something wrong. Personally, I got spanked, I got scolded. And so right now, even as an adult, when someone would raise their voice and stuff, I would literally start crying, because as a young kid, my parents would raise their voice. I'm like, oh, I'm going to spank you. So in my mind, that reptilian brain takes over, and it's very automatic. I just start crying. And like, I can't help it, because it is, because human beings, we have an animal side, and we're also um, wanting to be bigger as well, like greater than an animal, but at a base level, that's why there's violent people, right? That because they're very on that, like as you said, reptilian brain, or the very prehistoric brain and stuff. So I love that explanation. I'm gonna use it more, because it really is to people that are not aware about this, we really do have a reptilian brain. It's just evolution. We just upgraded,
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Wow. And actually, if do we have time for a little story how this ties in?
Sure.
So as you're talking, it made me remember a example of how this works. And so it's interesting. I'm looking at my post online, and so I did it in 2017. So 2016 was kind of my transformational point. And at that point, it was actually shortly after my New York time. I was in a car with somebody who was a drunk driver, and I didn't know. I trusted myself. I vocalized I did not feel comfortable getting in this car with this other person, and suddenly the world manifested this person, and I was like, hooray, you've saved the day. And so I went off, and I had no clue that they were drunk. And it was the scariest, like 3 a.m. in Vegas, like this person speeding and like running lights. And I was terrified, crying, screaming in the back seat, like, oh my gosh. And as we're realizing, I am so grateful for that experience, because what did it do? It made me see how these engrams work. So that was such a traumatizing experience to me. And thankfully everything was fine, totally fine. I got home and was like, no, I am leaving. Or it wasn't home, I was visiting. It was like I got clear. For this moment, I didn't realize how grateful I am to realize. So what happened? I have always been an extremely safe driver. Though after that, I started to get stressed out, and I started to have road rage. And I have never in my life driven fast and speeding and angry. And I was doing this, and I mean, like, embarrassingly doing this. And I realized it was happening in 2016 in the fall. I was under a lot of stress, and it was just weird. And I mean, it was bad. And thankfully, my story, I never ever had an accident or anything, though I did blow out the tires in my rental Mustang. So, like, I was just so. And when I realized and finally made that connection that this was an engram, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had this traumatized driving experience, and now I'm getting triggered and acting it out. And the moment that I had that aha and treated it, like, lost all power, and I've never, ever had that behavior or desire or reaction again, ever in my life. So I think that's the power that you don't even realize. And I really don't even remember that scary night in Vegas. However, to have that epiphany this day and be able to say that's the power of these things, we don't know how anything that when we're angry or fearful, whatever's captured in that moment can have the repercussions later because it gets imprinted. So we need to do something to clear it out. We clear out our trash cans and, we clear out other things. Well, we need to delete these emotions in our body because they become our awful thoughts and actions.
Oh yeah, and I think that is just going back to money and stuff too. Like if you grew up in a household that didn't have a lot of money, so there's a lot of anxiety with regards to money, and a lot of it is unconscious too because it can stem from childhood, not having enough money. So when you grow up, it's just really stressful. So it's always amazing to have these awareness and these tools that we are really the product of our past, but we have the choice to choose something different from this moment on. And but by using tools like Reset Free Fast, we can free ourselves from the cycle, the never-ending cycle. Yeah.
Wow. That is very, very true and powerful. So, and yeah, like I had negative thoughts with money, I don't deserve it, but then I also had, positives. So using these tools, everything encompassing, and that's the beautiful, you might not know what this engram is, like that's where some people get caught in, you need to figure out the childhood memory to release it or this or that, but it doesn't matter whether it's an energy, like it's just a matter of if you want it gone, you have a tool to poof, get it done, get it out and have lasting freedom.
Yeah, and sometimes just being aware that, hey, I think this is because this happened. Sometimes that light bulb moment is also just enough, just that awareness actually. Sometimes it can be enough to change something. But of course, the negative association has to be cleared somehow still, and that's where Be Set Free Fast comes in.
Yeah, very cool. I love sharing it. And so it's definitely special. And I hope I get the opportunity to do a lot of sessions with people because it's so good to get them going or to spend that time and do, actual treatment sessions. And it's a blessing, the world peace, one mind at a time. You're doing things to help people on their freedom journeys and I'm doing theirs. And we have a awesome financial freedom journey movement.
I know, and I'll put the link on the show notes and stuff, and I'll also send a link on the how to get the book and stuff, and especially your process because you streamlined everything. I actually like it. It's easier, and I like you know just bullet points and stuff instead of like reading the whole book.
Yeah, keep your little paper in your purse. It's very handy or in the car, tucked away. It just makes it, then that's where you have this tool to be able to do these things.
Yeah. So I really enjoy having you on the show. It's always like eye-opening and I learned something new. And that's something, learning something new is just great. It means you're growing and you're expanding. So I really appreciate it. And I'll make sure that people are sent over to your website so they can work with you. And I hope to be able to work with you in the future again with we can do a who knows, collaboration of some sort. Yes.
Oh, I would love that. So I love your energy and it's absolutely a wonderful pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.